What are you
hesitant to ask me?
And why?
And why? Ooh.
Girl, nothing. What am I hesitant to ask you and why? Would you choose me? If you had to go to the sister store.
Store and pick out a sister.
I've never asked you this, but if at any point you ever thought of leaving me.
Like, honestly, like, would you choose me?
Well, so you also have to ask why you're hesitant to ask that question.
It's just that, like, fear.
So the slight fear of rejection.
There's the possibility that, yes, there is a moment in time that you did think that. Just the simple fact that there is that possible negative answer, I don't want to ask that question.
That's Jean over there, but I could take her or leave her. No, I would, so I guess my question is, would you take me or leave me?
It's a sweet and silly question.
Let me answer that right now. No.
Of course I would choose you.
I never thought about ever leaving you. You're in every part of my life when I think about when I graduate, when we get married, kids, future house, everything. I cannot see anybody else. Can't see myself alone. You're just in every single one.
You're not a responsibility to love. You're a choice to love. I choose to love you.
Thank you for that.
I choose to love you.
Thank you.
And I love getting the choice to love you. And I love that when I get the choice to love you, I say yes.
Thank you. Because
Okay? So just know that.
Whew. Got a little choked up there for a second.
Whew. I wanted that, right? The relationship. But I didn't want it to be
like an obligation.
So thank you.
I think there's only one question I'm hesitant to ask you, and why. And that's because I know the answer is going to be not right now, or we'll see what happens. It's proposing.
I'm hesitant to ask where you see us going or the future of this relationship. Yeah, I feel like that's something that we're choosing to not really talk about.
You can't run on just words. You can't date for potential. Like,
dating someone's potential.
But we might be that sometime, you know?
Yeah. Do we work well together?
Yeah.
That's really the question.
You don't know that until you just live and exist.
There is definitely some time that has to transpire in order to truly know.
I think all we can do is focus on what's going on right now, which I think is what we're doing.
Yeah.
The right thing to do is to ask that question when it's actually the right time. And that's the only question that I can't really ask you today.
The only thing I can think of is when we start having kids. I've been going like back and forth about like being a stay-at-home mom and not being a stay-at-home mom.
That whole damn big dark cloud of, are we ever going to have kids, hanging over us, and the ticking time bomb that my uterus is.
We kind of set, not the expectation that I would be a stay-at-home mom, but like we've talked about me being the stay-at-home mom. And I love that, and I want to do that, but there's also a part of me that wants to work. So it's more like an internal, like, what do I actually want to do?
Yeah. If I was to potentially wake up one day and be like, right, I've decided, yes, we're having them, I would be hesitant to deliver that, knowing what we've built so far has been successful because we haven't had kids.
I don't know if I should not be a stay-at-home mom because I want to work, But like, will I regret not being a stay-at-home mom, or do I be a stay-at-home mom and then regret not working for that time?
I don't want to regret not having them when I'm 50 and have that relationship that I have with my parents now, like not have that.
I'm open to it, and I would 100% back your decision.
I know.
I think that's also why I haven't been like super obsessed with it, because I know it's going to work out. Like, whatever happens, happens.
Like, it's just another thing that you and I would conquer. Like, we'd make it work.
Yeah.
What's this next year going to be like for us? And the reason why I'm hesitant, because I'm kind of scared of it.
How does me talking about suicide and me not being here, really affect you? Maybe I'm scared because I'm afraid of what we might pull out of that conversation.
I'm hesitant to ask because you can see the emotion I have, but how do you feel about that?
Recently, I've tried to tell you and be more honest when I'm going into those dark places. You know what I mean? It's still something I struggle with, because I don't want you to feel sad.
I take one day at a time. Sometimes 1 hour at a time.
I mean, obviously it's hard. Like you never want the person you love to be suffering in any kind of way. I would just rather know.
Right.
I think it would be way worse to not know and know that you're suffering on your own.
I feel like we're doing a lot of things to keep him close to us.
It's a connection that's deeper than a physical person in front of you. It's just what he left us. And I think what we're doing is we're creating a new relationship we have with our son.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely not easy, but I know that I would do everything in my power to try to support you and love you through that. I'm just so grateful when you do tell me. I know how hard that is.
Yeah.
If he's watching us, which I believe he is, I think I don't want him to look down and be like, they're completely different.
Right. We want to be the same people and better.
Better.
Yeah. We want him to see that we're okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to have more intimate conversations with your partner, but they're reluctant to join you? Do you sense that there's a more fulfilling connection that you can build, but you don't quite know how to do it? I'm proud to share with you 12 Questions for Love. It's a toolkit, it's a roadmap so that you can deepen the relationships in your life. In this book, you'll learn how to create the physical and emotional space so that you can have a transformative conversation. 12 Questions for Love, a guide to intimate conversations and deeper relationships.